Hey, what's up, Todd?
What's up, Marc? Great to see you.
Hey, we just met and now we're like friends. This is amazing.
Instant friendship. Loved it.
Instant friend, dude. So we met. We were up in Wisconsin at Experience Inbound, which is the Midwest's premier marketing conference. It's put out by Wider Group and Stream Creative. Both are like agencies, marketing agencies in Wisconsin. And you and I kind of like reached out on LinkedIn. We're like, hey, we'll be at the conference. Let's talk. And then we like totally talked. It was totally awesome. And we're like, oh, we should definitely do a podcast. And yet here we are, just like a week later, and it's happening, and it's awesome.
Here we are. I'm excited to be on the show, and thanks for inviting me on. Great to see you.
Yeah, for sure. I think I do have this line, man. I saw it on a bumper sticker at a Dead show once, and it said, "Strangers are just friends we haven't met yet." And you know, in a planet of like bajillions of people, you and I just met and hit it off, and I'm excited. I think the stuff that you do, you know, again, in the framing of this show around thinking differently, I think you definitely think differently, and you have a really unique value and skill set as to how you think differently and help people. And so, by way of introduction, ladies and gentlemen, this is Todd Nilson. He is a community builder. He is a community-led entrepreneur. I don't know if everybody knows what that means, so let's just start there. What does that mean to be a community builder, a community-led entrepreneur? What is that?
Yeah, so I think for many people, the idea of having a community is not a new one. Everybody loves community. Nobody hates the idea. But as soon as an organization or a group decides that they want to enable their community, everybody freezes up and says, what the heck do we do? How do we create these connections? How do we build a place, especially online, for people to come together and find trust, connection, ways to work together, ways to produce and create joyfully and meaningfully and with trust with each other. And for me, this translates into work with a lot of B2B organizations and nonprofits of mid to large size, where I will go in and be their community strategist, their planner. Sometimes they hire me as their head of community in a fractional role, and I help them.
Real quick. Let folks know, what does that mean? Because that's a new-ish. I feel it's like a new-ish thing. Last 5 years. What does it mean to be a fractional anything?
If you kind of look on sort of the like the spectrum of consulting, you know, down at the piecework end of things is like being a freelancer or being a contractor, you know, being a vendor, you know, doing stuff for another company. As you start doing higher order work like consulting, management consulting, advisory work, fractional work falls up at the extreme end of that scale. Arguably isn't even totally consulting work because you're actually brought into the organization as a part-time executive or leader for that company so that they can get work done swiftly and effectively without having to pay the overhead of a full-time chief whatever officer, but somebody that's going to help them to get to scale, get to speed, and will be accountable for the work that has to be done within the space. So you're right; it's an absolutely new talent category which has been emerging over the last year or two.
It's interesting because we hear these people talk about like the gig economy, right? I think that even like one generation ago, people had careers, and the career was defined by you got a job at a place and you worked at that place and that was your career, and or that was your profession. And literally within 10 years, 20 years, we've now seen a complete flip where you could easily make the money you need to survive as a human. You could be driving Uber and DoorDash, and you could also be consulting as a photographer, and you could also be making content as a creator. You could do a million ways to kind of cover your nut and live. And it doesn't just have to be with one career. So this like gig economy is maybe at one end of the spectrum, and where you're operating in these fractional roles is like high value to companies. But the benefit to them, again, is like they don't pay your health insurance. It's the lack of overhead on there, and they just get the best of you for this fraction of the time.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it's an exciting space to be in. I've been independent and on my own since 2015, and I would never go back the other way. I can't ever see myself going back into a corporate structure environment or anything like that. You know, I see too many people who are in those roles, and companies are all too willing to jettison people in favor of profits. and short-term gains at the moment. For me, I feel much more in control of my destiny, being an independent business owner, and I think it's just the way to go.
Okay, so we're like literally going to open Pandora's box here. Okay,
Love it.
so you said what a community builder is, right? It's this idea that if you have a company, you have a brand, you have a product, or you have a nonprofit where you're trying to achieve some sort of social good, I shouldn't say we, most people might not be aware, but traditionally in marketing and the way that businesses grew, if you made Skippy peanut butter in the 1950s, you would say Skippy peanut butter is the best peanut butter. It tastes better than Jif. This is why we have the best peanut butter. Buy our peanut butter. All about the peanut butter. We call that in the industry product-led growth. You're leading the growth of your company by just saying we're all about product. There's this other, and there's a lot of models of this, right? But one of them is community-led growth. And this is the idea where, again, whether you are selling peanut butter, a product, you are selling a service where, oh, we help companies do X, Y, and Z, or whatever you're doing. If you're a nonprofit, again, trying to, clean rivers and make the world green, or help, boys and girls clubs into STEM fields and things like that. It's not just the value you're bringing for the work or the product that you bring together, but the way that you grow is by enabling and building a community around your thing, around your product, your service, or your offering. And so I need you to start to bring me in a little bit and give us what is community-led growth or community for a business, 101 level? What is it? Why is it important? And maybe a good place to start is how do you define community? You're the community dude. How do you define community? And then what does it look like for a company, a brand, an organization to lead with community?
I love it, man. And I'm glad you went back to sort of the early, 1950s model of, Jif is for choosy mothers who choose, the best peanut butter that is on the market.
Yes, that's right. Great campaign.
It's that one-way messaging and sort of bludgeoning people with the advertising, mantra of hey, if we hit you with this message enough times, you're eventually going to believe that we're the only ones. That was sort of the old model of brand.
Right.
I think
and unique in that is they were the only ones saying it, right? Jif was the only one talking about Jif, and you only heard about Jif if you saw the Jif ad, if you heard the Jif jingle, if you saw Jif at the store. It was Jif controlled. And here we have a new era.
And this is I think a sign of the maturity maybe of the marketing industry, a recognition that it's not about what you're telling people you're about, it's what people are saying about you. And so the entire idea of building communities of fans, of influencers, of stakeholders who care about your brand is a recognition that what they say is important. How they're talking about you is worth listening to, and it's worth enabling spaces, holding spaces for people to have those conversations, whether it's one of those round table groups where you have listening sessions to understand what people think about your product, whether you're doing surveys. The idea of having an online community or a space where people can come together to talk about your product or your service is incredibly important, because it's like having a 24/7, 365 feedback group that is always, giving you reactions, ideas, feedback about what your product or service does or provides, if you're doing it right. So to get to that question that you had, what is, in my definition, an online community, or what is it to be that community builder? It's a matter of bringing people together who have similar interests, goals, visions, that makes them want to come together on a regular basis to share with each other, to learn, to grow, to be creative, to build stuff. And you're going to find various definitions of that out there, but it always comes back to a couple of those elements. Who are the people that belong in the community? This might be counterintuitive for some, but communities have in-groups and people that don't belong in those spaces. So okay. I draw a big distinction between social media platforms, big social media platforms that are the big party for everybody all the time, and communities, which are for very specific people with specific needs, similar goals, similar ideas, similar value systems, who are coming together for a purpose, for a reason, not just a party, but there's something they care about that they have in common. that they need to come together for.
Okay, so dude, you're so good at this. You're so good at this,
I've been
man.
doing it a
All
while,
right.
man. And I love it.
Yeah, you have. Like, again, you're the guy. You're the guy. You know, I'm in Chicago. You got a guy for everything. I got a car guy. I got an AC guy. I got a guy. You're the community guy. Some folks listening, and I always use the example, my lovely Aunt Terry and Aunt Cindy out on the East Coast. This might be new stuff to them. And they may be asking themselves, I'm buying freaking peanut butter. Well, I don't need a community for peanut butter. What are you talking about? So I guess the question is like, is a community for everybody, every business, every brand, every product, every service? You know, my uncle Jim, he owns like a really successful, amazing, you know, kind of like generational plumbing company, and they do amazing work, amazing projects. It is awesome. He's like so passionate about it. And somebody may say, well, do we need community around that business? So like, hard question, but is community for everybody, or are there people where we say, you know what, maybe not?
I would say there definitely are cases where it's not for everybody. There are there have been some organizations that I've worked for, consulted with in the past that have been thinking about community and ultimately decided not to do it because there was some fundamental level of distrust that existed within the space. So if you think about like you've got multiple people who are bidding for something in auctions. Like, can I create an online community for people that are all bidding competitively on stuff with each other? Maybe, but it's hard to build trust between those individuals because they're not going to want to share their insider tips. They're not going to necessarily want to help people get better at doing that. They're very self-interested. And so when you have environments like that are very transactionally mercantile driven, low trust marketplace kinds of environments, it can be tough to build communities in those spaces. And so I'm a big believer in like, I'm interested in physical architecture because I think there are a lot of lessons we can take from the design of public spaces and building spaces for people to come together and share with things like, yeah, I can build a community in the middle of an amusement park or a gambling casino, but why would I want to build it there? It's filled with distractions. There's all kinds of other things around me that are trying to entice me to do other stuff or pay attention to other stuff. So it's a matter of fit purpose, you know, for these places.
And you know what's interesting is like that's an amazing example. The benefit of a community, and you said a few things there I want to like just pull out. You said like learn and grow, right? One benefit of a community is the community can help the contributors and members of the community grow and get better at X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, and support each other. And in doing so, again, like going back to like if you have Jif peanut butter, there may or may not be a benefit to creating a community around it, because the people that buy Jif peanut butter, assumingly might be in a household, right? You probably, because you're using it to eat, and you may or may not be providing for others, right? And so like maybe it is around parents. Maybe it is around parents of toddlers. And within that world, if you've ever had a toddler, you're like, I need all the support I can get. This is like crazy stuff that's happening. Right. And there may be an opportunity to build community around that.
Yes.
And then you said something really unique, which was like the physical space could determine where or not, like you wouldn't want a community in the middle of a casino. And it flagged a really unique thing for me. And I just want to like bring this off for the side for a second. I'm sure that 99% of the times you don't want a community in a casino, because it doesn't make sense. But there might be 1% of the time where it could make sense. And the example that I have is, I'm a Deadhead. I've seen the original Grateful Dead. I saw them over 20 times. I'm a huge Deadhead. And my first few times I was a kid and I'd go to these Dead shows, you'd see very clearly, or look around the stadium or you look around the parking lot, there'd be you'd see yellow balloons, like dozens of yellow balloons. Yeah. I asked my brother, my two older brothers would always take me. I'm like, what is that? And those yellow balloons are actually, they're called wharf rats. And wharf rats are deadheads that are in recovery from addiction. And as you probably know, the Grateful Dead were notorious. They were a hippie jam band, and there was a lot of kind of the subculture. There's a lot of drugs and pot and this and that and partying. But there were people that, we love the music and we love the community. But if you're an addict, being in that area, in that environment, can be really hard. And so they created a community within this community where it should not belong, and yet it was so valuable. And I think that when I think about and the yellow balloons were a symbol. Come here. Hey, you're a wharf rat. Come to the yellow balloons. Look for the people in the yellow raincoats. Yellow was the color, and that's where you could go if you were like an addict at a Dead show. And so I think what's cool about this thing we're talking about is like it all makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't make sense, and we might be able to make sense of it there, right? That's like a really like niche little example of where maybe a community shouldn't belong, but it does belong, and it's just so valuable for the few people that are in it. It's a niche, really welcoming community.
I love so much about that example that you gave, because there's a couple of things about it. So one, you're absolutely right that there are times when it's that 1% of the cases where it would never work otherwise, but for this particular group, for this particular need, yes. Maybe in the middle of that casino, there needs to be a place for people who have a gambling addiction problem, and they need a place to come together that's safe within that environment because they're with family or whatever, and it's brought them into that space. And I love the fact that, with what you were describing with the wharf rats example, that there was a symbol or a signal that was a rallying place for them. And that was indicating a fit environment, a safe environment, a place to go to where they could have that. So I really wonderful example. There are, some hallmarks of community that I always look for that are a sign of belonging. So symbols is one side of that, to indicate like this is where you come. Rituals, things you do when you're in that space together to achieve solidarity. Solidarity is another one of those. And so there's a community that I work in and serve and have for a couple of years now, which is around addiction of quitting smoking. I'm trying to quit smoking, trying to quit vaping, and all those pieces. And one of the wonderful rituals they have in that particular community, this is an online community, is something they call the Daily Pledge. And they jump into this particular community on a daily basis. And it's one of the most highly trafficked pieces. It's an old school discussion forum platform that it's based out of. And within that space, they basically come into that thread every day and say, I pledge not to smoke today. And I extend my hand to the next person. And then the next person jumps into that thread and says, hey, Marc, glad you're here. I also pledge not to smoke today, and extend my hand to the next person. And they do that day by day, month by month in this community. And it's the strongest ritual practice that I've seen in any of the communities that I've worked in dozens of online communities over the years. But the power of that is incredible. We get on a monthly basis, 50 to 65 pages of replies every month for just the people that are in that community space. And what's so nice about that is those kinds of rituals, those kinds of experiences in online communities create that sense of intimacy and trust between the members. And it's an easy way for new members of that community to come in and not have to give their full resume, not have to, it's tough to know other people when it's just a bunch of text on a page from others. It gives them a place where they can start to participate and get to know other people in the environment a little bit, and have something that still serves them with what they need.
Wow. Well, one, congratulations. I know that recovery is a day-to-day thing, just one day. It's not, Absolutely. You're done. Congratulations. You quit. It's like, no, it's every day. So congratulations and cheers on your journey. There's a few things there. So symbols are important to communities. Rituals can be important to communities. And as things that are I'm trying to think of a way to frame this, Todd. It's like, those are objective things. This is our pledge. We wrote it. You come and you do the pledge. You did it. Is it done? Yes. Okay. Symbols. Do you have a symbol? Right? Are you a deadhead? Do you have the steal your face? Right? What? Do you have the Nike swoosh? Whatever. Do you have a symbol that people can, or a logo or some sort of symbol for your group? Objective. Is it there? Yes or no? But then and this is where I'm going to need your help. The psychology of community, because as we think about communities, again, whether it's a sports team you're a fan of, whether it is a religious group that you subscribe to, whether you're a super user of a software, whatever it is, there is a psychological element of being part of the group, of I feel belonging. We have a symbol, we have a pledge. Can you talk to me about the psychology of communities?
I mean, it's a huge topic, and one which occupies every day of my thinking, man. Where to begin with something like that? I think that fishes have schools and birds have flocks, and people form communities. This is something that's innately in our
Ooh.
DNA, going back to Neolithic times. Um, a lot of times I'll talk about, formation of communities. If a company comes my way and they say, well, we're thinking of starting an online community. We think, it'd be a great support place for lowering the number of help desk tickets that we get like
Okay.
it'll be call deflection. A good ROI reason to have a community. It's a good entry level reason to get going at it. Uh, and my usual conversation with them is, well, that's great, and you may be able to have people come into that space, solve their problem, and leave and never come back. But that's not a community. That's not actually helping you to form a sense of connection with the brand or the product or the service, that's there. What is going to create that psychology of community, that's that sense of belonging, which is the hallmark of what makes it a community in the first place, is that I've got something more there that's going to draw me back on a day-to-day basis. There's something that's going to capture my imagination. Like I came and I solved my help desk problem, but like this ninja put candy in my pocket while I was waiting around here, and I found this other cool thing to look at. Right? I love ninja candy. That's cool.
Yeah.
So like there's something there beyond it, and so I'll often talk to leadership, and I'll introduce it, and I try to introduce things in funny ways so that they remember it. I'll say, well, it's what's the woolly mammoth of your community? What is it that helps people feel that sense of identity? If you think back to Neolithic times, people are living in small family units. Maybe they're in proximity to other small family units. They're hunter-gatherer cultures,
Yeah.
and you've got this big mastodon which comes trotting into the neighborhood. It tramples people. It's causing mayhem. If you've ever seen, I don't know if you've ever been to like the La Brea Tar Pits park or anything, but like this was such a moment for me. I was out in Los Angeles and went to the museum and went in there and saw a skeleton of one of the big mammoths in there. And you think about like these things are supposed to be big. You think like maybe elephant big. No, you could walk under the belly of these things. They are massive creatures, or were massive creatures. I
Whoa.
hope there's none left.
Yeah.
Just incredibly massive creature. And so like something like this happens, that is an existential threat to the people living in that space. So they come together and say, what are we going to do about this thing in our neighborhood? They come together and they say, well, let's figure out a way to trap it or kill it or drive it off and do that. And so a hunting band comes together, they hunt and they kill this woolly mammoth. It feeds them, it clothes them, it becomes part of their culture. They start to identify themselves. Hey, we're the clan of the mammoth. That's what brings us together.
Interesting.
This
Okay.
is
Okay.
this
Okay.
then becomes like part of our shared ethos, our values, the things that are important to us. And so, like, if you're from the clan of the cave bear over there, I don't want to talk to you. I don't know anything about bears, but I know about this woolly mammoth here, and that's our space. Now, we're very fortunate. We live outside of some of those existentially threatening forces. In sometimes
Yeah.
communities are about that, very much so. Communities of health crises and things like that need to be supported, as we were talking about a little bit earlier. But there's still that idea of having a community. The psychology of a community needs to land in that zone of it being either existentially important or being something that touches your identity in some meaningful, personal way. So like I don't care, even if you have a, accounting software. I'm trying to think of something. No,
Right.
no offense to accountants, but personally, like accounting software does not seem like a super sexy or exciting thing for me to think about. But if I'm running a company that sells that as a product or a service, how am I attaching that to the professional identities of accountants and CPAs? How am I attaching the use of that platform to my personal development? How am I enabling groups who care about the profession of generally and accepted practices of accounting in that space? If I can hit closer to that identity, the more likely it is that that community is going to be successful. And the farther out I am from that, the more likely it is that people might visit once or twice and then never come back again to the space.
So like, is part of that, again, this is like, again, folks that don't live in this world, I hope this is helpful, but the thing that like stands out is businesses exist for, to solve a problem and they make a profit. Otherwise it'd be a nonprofit. And we may say, oh, well, why do you need community? Like, why do you need the people to feel good? I think what I'm hearing from you is that, again, like as a design thinker, human-centered design, right? We're always looking at the end user, the person who is using the software, the person who is calling you at midnight because the pipe in their, ceiling broke, the people. And if you could figure and focus on the people that use your product, your service, your thing, and identify what is the commonality of need, desires, passions, challenges, etc. around them, provide a space for them to discuss, they may or may not find value in the product, but there is a value in you as a business, as an entity, as a thing, putting them together, right?
Exactly.
It's almost like if your kid plays t-ball, you don't care about t-ball, but now you get to talk to some of these other parents. You're like, hey, there's a little space where now I'm talking to other dads and moms, and there's community there around that. And it's not like we're keeping score and, going crazy on t-ball. It's the value of the community. I think that's interesting because I think it's been said a lot of different ways, Todd. I'm curious, like if it's, I'm sure it's popped in your world, but it's like, it's really not enough unless you're like Google. It's kind of not enough anymore to just say, here's our product. This is why we're great. And we're better than everybody else. Just buy our product, right? Like Google doesn't need to advertise. They really don't even advertise that much, right? Like maybe for their phones, but you rarely do you see a marketing campaign from Google that's like, use our search engine. We're great.
Right.
You don't hear that. Yeah. So I think that it's like, because we have such more informed consumers right now, and informed consumers that are more intelligent, more informed as to what their choices are out in the world, in the marketplace. If you can provide anything of identity to these people, I think that's really the value, is like, make those people's lives a little bit better.
Absolutely. And you're right. If you think about those large brands that don't need to actively advertise their product or service, you think about like famously the example of Apple and their mantra of think differently, and that idea of revolutionary new product, right?
Wait, you see that? That is an original Jim Henson, Kermit the Frog, think differently, Apple. That's an original poster from the original campaign.
That is awesome, man. I love that.
I got a crazy story how I got it too. I'll tell you later. It's a good story.
I would love to hear that. So the I mean, I think what's so powerful about that is that it really kind of gets to that sense of core identity. The people who use this product feel and think a certain way, and they see themselves as different and aside from that.
Is there like, okay, like, is this like Golden Circle, Simon Sinek, The Power of Why kind of stuff?
I think we're entering that circle. Yeah. So I mean,
okay,
it's getting at why people follow your brand, your product, your idea has to do with what people bring to that and how connected they feel about it, and what your motivations are for doing that. There was a certain world-changing attitude about Apple products, democratizing, the use of these amazing aesthetic products, that will help me work better and do things differently because, hey, I'm somebody that does stuff differently. So sure, why wouldn't I want to use this really cool looking aesthetic product? And, that's going to make me look like a awesome hipster when I go into the coffee shop or whatever, right?
The white earbuds perhaps were the most iconic fashion, like it was a symbol. The white earbuds for Apple were when you talk about communities have symbols and they have rituals, those were a symbol. When you wore those first version of those white earbuds that came with, where is first iPod ever? This. Nice. When this first came out, this is version 1 of the iPod. This is version 1. When this thing came out, it came with white corded headphones. And if you wore those headphones, it was as if you were making a statement. You're saying, glad that I have it here. You're saying, I'm this, I'm not this. Yeah. I am a white iPod, 10,000 songs in my pocket. I'm cool. I'm creative. I'm not my dad, You wearing this to
Right.
go put on sweatpants and work out at the YMCA, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and that symbol, it's interesting because as we talked about, the community comes from the value to the people. And they might have symbols and rituals and these other unique elements, and there's a psychology to it. I'm curious about, is there a chicken and an egg scenario that exists? Like, is there a chicken and egg conundrum of community for brands? Like, meaning, do you have to lead with the product, the value, the thing first, and then bring into community? Or could somebody find their way into the community by virtue of the community itself, and then be like, oh, over time, they're like, yeah, I think I might actually buy that thing. Is there, does that exist?
You know, I think I've seen both scenarios over the
Yeah.
years. I think it can work either way, and there's not a right or wrong answer to that, because we're dealing with issues of people and people, you know, coming in from a variety of different perspectives and motivations. And you know, if you've built a community that can accommodate that, if you've built so somebody on one of my recent feeds, you know, who lives in community world, this professional space that I work in, said something about, we don't actually design communities, we design containers for them.
Oh, come on. That is good.
Yeah,
That's
I can't
good.
take credit for that, but that idea, but it's one which resonated strongly with me. That that the community is architecture. Like the spaces we build are, you know, we're building architecture. We're designing spaces that allow for certain kinds of experience and expression, and whether that's in person or online, or my favorite, the corresponding between the two and hybrid, you know, kinds of experiences. Those, if they're well
Oh, this is
designed,
interesting.
they feel safe, they engender trust, and that, you know, allows people to come in from a variety of circumstances and realize quickly, that's important, they come in and realize quickly, oh, this is a place with people like me, or with or that are, they're talking about and doing things that I care about, that I'm interested in.
All right, question here. I'm looking something up here while we talk.
Yeah.
Hold on one second. Okay. I'm trying to think you said it. Okay. I was trying to see if it existed. So because here's the question that's like really on my mind. Well, there's a lot of questions I have for you. Businesses, as we talked, they have a product or service that makes people's lives better, and they make a profit, right?
Mhm.
And so what we're saying is that if you are in that space, building a community for the people that use your product or service is a financially beneficial decision. There will be return on investment financially by building a community. And I think that, like, you know, like the hat, there's like this hats methodology. Like, you wear this hat, you're the
Right.
pessimist. You wear this hat, you're the optimist. This hat is the, you know, the pragmatic person.
Yeah.
Um, so a pessimist may say, yeah, but that's going to take time, and I could just run some paid ads right now and get people to click and buy, and I got ROI today, but community is going to take a while. What is the stance, the argument, the positioning on the ROI from a business value of building community?
Yeah. I mean, you're right to say community is definitely a longer tail payoff.
Marathon, right?
You know,
Yeah.
it's a marathon, not a race. It's a program, not a project. It's not something you can set and forget. It's something that needs to be paid attention to. And you're right. So like I wrote a piece for the Community Leaders Institute not too long ago, where I talked about, like, is community the right use case for me and for my organization? And
Okay.
you pointed to one of those cases where if a company is looking for more immediate payoff, more immediate ROI, they want to acquire a large number of eyeballs for their campaign or whatever they're doing. Advertising is probably the right thing for them to do. They're fast acquisition, you know, building like that is you're probably not going to be happy with the results of community, you know, with that. I usually try to temper expectations around community build outs, time to value. Um, Again, depending on how close we get to the center of that bullseye of existential or identity, you know, driven community, uh, maybe you get there to, you know, within 3 to 6 months, more likely somewhere between 9 and 12, or maybe even a little bit longer, because it takes time to build that groundswell of support. And I really need to disabuse, is that the word, executive leadership teams of that idea of what we need all of our customers in this community. No, you don't. You just need your most passionate customers in that community. There's I don't know if you ever talked to what's his name, Ram Sethi, wrote "I'll Teach You to Be Rich."
Ramit Sethi, yeah.
Ramit, yeah, there we go.
1,000 true. Are you talking about? And then the Kevin
give me
Kelly
1,000 true
article.
customers, you know, or give me 100 true customers as opposed to 1,000 people. I'm of that same school of thought. Give me a cozy community where I've got 100 dedicated people that really care about my brand. They're always going to give me feedback on my product or whatever. And I don't care. Like, I don't care if you're a Fortune 100 company. If there's 100 dedicated customers within that space, you're going to get a lot of value out of that. If they become your advocates, your foot soldiers, you know, for the brand, there's your ROI.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is I don't always look at it for what's going to show up on the P&L, but look at it more like informed customers, passionate customers will give you honest feedback. They'll give, you know, they'll help inform your next decisions of what you're going to be doing. That's an interesting way to think about it.
Because if you think of it this way, Mark, like if you're elected president, you know, are you going to surround yourself with people that always tell you yes, you know, to everything? Like, do you really need that kind of ego groom, or do you need people that are going to tell you things you maybe don't necessarily want to hear?
Totally.
And be open to it, and not shut them down when it happens. Like a lot of times, a lot of the pushback for organizations that worry about creating an online community is they have this moment where they say, well, what if people say mean things about us? We know what they're probably already saying mean things about you. You want to know about it.
You want to know and say it to my face so I can figure out how to be better, right?
Give me something to do. Give me a chance to be better, or let me affect the narrative of whatever that thing is.
Man, this is very interesting because I'm starting to think about this example that you gave of, like, if you were a Fortune 100 company, and wouldn't you want to have 100 true fans that can, you know, inform and give feedback, etc. And it's like, if you're a Fortune 100 company, you have hundreds of thousands of customers, right? And you would say, why would I just want 100? And that's the reason, is because the 100, there's groups within groups within groups within groups within, like even in deadheads, right? I'll go talk to another. Oh, you're a deadhead. You're a deadhead. And they'll say, oh, what's your favorite show? I'm like, oh, you know, I don't know. Maybe this, I don't know, it's Alpine Valley 87. I'm like, oh, yeah, he used this guitar and he was playing that. And I'm like, I don't know what are you talking? Or I'm like, what about, you know, what about the Saturday night? I'm like, bro, you are so deep, and I'm not that deep into that. Like, there's the people that focus on the, you know, the set lists and the lighting and the what instruments there. I'm like, I'm not there. I'm not at all there. Dude, but that's a different level of community.
Absolutely. Those people are your freaking Justice League. They're the Avengers.
Yeah. I like the way you think about that. Yeah.
And don't you want to build Avengers headquarters for your customers? You know, like, you need that. You need that.
Yeah. We started off by talking about, like, the examples, like, you know, Skippy and Jif, right? Mom's Choose Jif, right? And I think about, like, product-led growth for Jif is choose Jif, you know, the Jif jingle, and this is why Jif peanut butter is the best. Community-led growth for Jif could be that Jif, like, has some sort of, like, the Healthy Parents Council.
Absolutely.
Like the Working Dads of America, you know, and, you know, it's like Mad Men style. And it's like, dude, like, this is just a place where working dads that have to make those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day, that we come and we talk about being fathers, and that's the value of the community. And through the container that Jif has put together for us, we grow better as fathers because we're talking about fatherhood. And then, by the way, we're probably going to end up buying Jif peanut butter. We're probably going to get a shirt that says,
oh yeah,
Working Dads of America, Jif. You know, like, that becomes part of the identity, the symbol, the rituals, if you will. Man, this is so. All right, we're going to start to wrap up here, but I'm curious, like, as an independent person that does this, one, if you are listening to this and you are a company, you have a nonprofit, you are a brand, you have anything where you're trying to up your game, just reach out to Todd on LinkedIn, man. Like seriously, just that's how we connected. Like send him a message on LinkedIn, send him an email. I'll put your email in the show notes, but it's like, just talk to Todd. Like Todd will start to say, yeah, this is for you. Maybe it's not for you, or yes, it is for you. And again, this is your bread and butter. This is what you do as a professional. And as you do that, what are the changes that you've seen in community over the years? And what do you think is starting to change community for companies in the future? Are there disruptions because of AI? Are there disruptions because of social media? Like what has happened and what do you predict is going to happen?
Yeah, there's some amazing stuff. So I formally got into this space around 2013. I had joined an agency that did implementations of a particular community platform for customers, and I did some work for SAP and some other other big tech brand names at the time. And at that time, it was seen as a nice to have in a lot of go to market marketing mixes of what they did. I think it was seen as a driver of value around reducing tickets, or
Yep.
just sort of having a rah-rah incentive for your partners or for your customers to come together. I think the thinking has become much more in leading organizations. It's become much more mature in recent years, where it's connected to ideas of reducing churn, and customer churn, improving loyalty, and even driving customer advocacy over time. So a lot of times community will live under a marketing department or
Yeah.
under the CMO. But increasingly, we're also seeing, things like a head of customer advocacy has oversight of community, or a chief people officer, if you're thinking about your internal customer communities, because those are communities as well, and thinking about how you keep people engaged, over time, and the outcomes around that are not just ticket deflection, but also ideation. How do I make my product or service better? Also, that idea of advocacy, the acts of advocacy. These people are going out into the world as your army of testimonials on G2 and other review websites. They're helping refer new customers into your space. They're leading webinars and improving themselves professionally while burnishing the reputation of your brand. So that's all become, I think, a little bit more seen as part of the overall plan, for marketing departments. I will say where marketing and community seem to be pulling in slightly opposite directions is I call it an undue emphasis on acquisition over full life cycle of the customer. Um,
Ooh.
I communities are beautiful for full life cycle. They're not as great for acquisition side. Like it's fine, like absolutely useful when somebody buys your product. You invite them to the community. They get onboarding and help and maybe some peer support through that process. But communities are you're leaving half the money on the table if you're just focusing on the acquisition side of that, because as people come into your community, and ideally they're coming back again and again, they're growing and learning with you, and they become experienced customers, longtime customers, who ideally, if they are really inspired by your brand and what you're offering, they want to help others feel that same joy of what you're creating for them.
Interesting. So like again, for businesses that are like, we're in pain, we need to hit, if we don't hit our quota in this quarter, we're done. Community is not going to get you there. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Right. Yeah. You're hiring a general to take a hill, for you.
Got it.
Now,
Makes
as far
sense.
as what the future of this space goes, I am
Yeah.
incredibly excited about the directions that things are going. I think AI and large language models, is one thing, and it's got some really serious implications for community building. Certainly capabilities around recommending content or discussions, or who you should talk to next within a community. AI is going to be super capable of doing things like that. AI chatbots to help point you to the right kind of resources and spaces. AI to be able to summarize conversations in complex threads for you.
Yep.
A lot of
Yep.
use cases for stuff like that. I'm also really interested in continuing to keep my eye on the world of XR, like virtual reality, augmented reality. Even though we got the big, stupid, clunky glasses and stuff on our faces, that's like one extreme end of the scale. We already have AR or like semi-immersive
Yeah.
VR kinds of experiences, like through our screens and on our phones and our iPads and our desktops. And these kinds of spaces, I think, have a lot of potential for community building that is just being experimented with. Right now we're at early stages of that. I see where community has a potential to go over the next over the next decade or so is going to
Yeah.
be around moving away from text as the central metaphor for community towards
Ooh.
video and virtual reality interactions, where it'll be more game-like environments, more like walking through, Fallout or Minecraft, or more virtualized kind of spaces where you can meet other people. And these things have been around for a long time, goes all the way back to Second Life, back in the early 2010s,
Mhm.
around this stuff. But being able to pull people into spaces where they can have more face-to-face or face-to-face-ish kinds of interactions where proximity plays a part, I think is going to have
Yeah.
some powerful implications for community building, going forward.
Man, well, number one, check out EX3 Labs in Chicago. Anybody's listening that's like, ooh, I would. Well, first talk to Todd to talk about building community, and then go check out EX3 Labs. They do great VR, AR, and digital experiences for corporate innovations. I've worked with them for years. They're amazing. And that is a really cool thing. I love how you're thinking about the future, about not losing the core of what a community is. A community is there to help people kind of get better, to educate them and to help them grow. They do that because they have symbols and they have rituals and they have a container that has been put in place by this company for these very special group of people to grow and then help advocate for change as they grow. But then in the future, there might be that container might change a little bit. And I like how we're thinking about that. Todd, this was really awesome, man. I cannot thank you enough for reaching out on LinkedIn. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk at Experience Inbound in Wisconsin last week, I think it was, and then so quickly just jumping on here. Anything we can help you with? There's a lot of people that listen to this podcast. Anything the audience can do to help you out that you need some assistance with?
Marc, so first of all, let me say, I thought your presentation at Experience Inbound was brilliant. You're terrific. You and particularly was it Jay Kunso? Is that
Yeah,
his last
Jay.
name?
Yeah,
Jay was awesome. Started off the morning right with tons of energy. Really cool. Also, a shout out to Andy Crestodina from Orbit
yeah.
Media,
Dude,
who
so
is
good.
like
Come on,
the
man. So
bomb
good.
of the SEO world. Smoking good guy. Super super great. I got so much value out of that event. It was really terrific, and the chance that I got to meet you, and we get to share some time on this live stream. I hope you're able to join mine as well.
Yeah,
Um,
let's
I
go.
I run a LinkedIn live stream every other Friday, called Talk About Your Community. And it's really casual, unplugged conversations like this. Learning from
Awesome.
people that are community adjacent or have perspectives on community building that, we come in, we talk for about 45 minutes or so, same kind of deal. So anybody that wants to follow and be aware of those events as they come up, follow my Clock Tower Advisors brand on LinkedIn. But
Awesome.
again, anybody that wants to explore that idea of community building for their organization, for their brand, and they just don't know where to start, I love having those conversations with people. I'll give a talk to your organization, do it as a lunch and learn or whatever. I don't charge for
Mhm.
those, because this is
Awesome, man.
this is the way forward for organizations. Like if you haven't figured, like for most companies, they need some element of community building in what they do. We talked about some exceptions early on, but those are the exceptions and not the rule. So would love it to have any of those. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect that way. Or you can always visit my website and see some more of my work through clocktoweradvisors.com, or on my LinkedIn, my YouTube channel as well.
Consider it done. I will subscribe to them all. Also, going to introduce you to Derek Weeks, who was on the podcast a while back. Just wrote a book around community-led marketing. You two are kindred spirits, and you should just know each other for sure.
I know him a little bit, but yeah, I
Cool.
would love to reconnect. That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Marc.
Dude, this was so awesome, man. And I am going to take you up on your invitation to come up to Two Rivers, Wisconsin, to look at the Hamilton print museum, right?
Yeah, the Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum, on Memorial Drive in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. I would call it one of the world's largest international repositories of unique wood type fonts
That's my
and
stuff,
the world
man.
of printing. Yeah.
That's my stuff, man. Thank you so much, Todd. This was awesome, man. It's Friday. This will go out on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much. This is the first of many, many conversations we'll have together.
Thanks, Marc.
All right, later, buddy.